Declan Rice is Arsenal bound, or is he? Look, we've been known it's going to be coming for a while. Declan Rice is set to leave the club. I know there's been a little bit of talk around whether he would stay on for another year, but it looks pretty certain that he will be leaving this summer. But it's an interesting situation. Most people on social media are taken to the fact that Declan Rice has said that his preferred destination is Arsenal. Now, we know from obviously the best source in the world, WXC employee, that this is true. Declan Rice's preferred destination is Arsenal. Mikel Arteta has come to him and, sold him the dream, sold him that he could be the main man at the club. He's going to be one of the highest paid players at the club. They've done what we probably should have done and said that we're going to build a team around you. And, they only finished 5 points off Manchester City last season. They may well have won the league, Champions League football to offer. They're, an exciting sort of project at the moment. And you can see why Declan Rice wants to leave. You can see why he would want to make a step up to that level. However, there is also talk of Manchester City. Now, with Manchester City, it's a little bit different. Pep Guardiola is thought that perhaps he might leave in the next couple of years. So whatever role Declan Rice is promised or whatever role is sold to him in the sort of process, it may not be the case in a couple of years. Pep may leave and circumstances may change. And as well as that, we've got a star-studded midfield of Rodri, of Gundogan. Obviously, De Bruyne is not going to leave anytime soon. Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva. You've got a lot of competition in that City team, whereas he walks into that Arsenal side, really. And also, Declan Rice would much rather stay in London because he's got his little 1-year-old kid. He's got his family. He's a big family man. He'd much rather stay in London than go up somewhere like Manchester, which is a big move. But it's a little bit of a middle way because he'd rather stay in England. That's one of his main concerns, staying in England, getting Champions League football. The issue is for Dec is that ultimately it's up to us. We don't have to allow him to go to Arsenal. And it is thought that City, because they've got more money, would offer more money for Declan Rice and potentially give us a better deal. It's also thought that Calvin Phillips would be involved in that deal. And that is someone that we have reported on the channel many a time with us having links with us being interested. Now, I have no idea where this is going to go. Literally no idea. My gut instinct is that he will probably go to Arsenal. It's thought that they're going to submit a bid this week in the region of, it's been reported, £80 million. And if he wins a trophy or gets good qualifications, then it will go up to £90 million. Now, this is probably not what we want for Declan Rice. In my eyes, I think 110 million is a very fair deal for him. Jack Grealish got bought for 100 million. Maguire was bought for 80 million. We've seen like Harry Kane, for instance, with like £120 million price tag. I don't think £110 million for Declan Rice is absurd. He's one of the best midfielders in the league. At a club like City, he could be developed in honestly one of the best midfielders in the world. I truly do believe that. I believe if he gets enough license to go forward and go into that number 8 role, he could be up there with the likes of, he's already up there with the likes of Jude Bellingham, but in terms of the sort of caliber or price tag that they put on Jude, I think he could be up there as well. And obviously, don't forget the English tax. He's an English player. That's very important to the Premier League with the homegrown status. So I don't feel that 107 million is absurd for Declan Rice. And I feel like that is the price that we should be sticking to. So to be honest, for me, I think Mikel Arteta's £30 million short. I think the fact that he's been able to sit down with Declan Rice and agree terms is probably a reason why he's sort of lowballing us a little bit. But we also know that Declan Rice is not the type of person who's going to be pushing a move. I don't think he's the type of person who's going to be sitting there and forcing a move to Arsenal, saying, I won't move to City, I won't move to so-and-so. I think he would move to City given the choice. And obviously, for West Ham, that's probably the best case scenario. The idea of him going to a London club is probably not great. They're not really our rivals, but they're a London club. It's a derby. So we'd much rather them go to a club like City, especially a club that the fan base seems to have a very decent sort of relationship with. West Ham fans and City fans seem to have this kind of okay understanding of each other. They seem to support each other. I think we got loads of messages from City about our European final, vice versa when they played in the Champions League final. For me, I just don't really get why he would want to go to Arsenal over Manchester City. With Arsenal, you're not guaranteed to win trophies at all. They're not winning the Premier League anytime soon. They came 5 points behind it. They had a brilliant start to the season. City were slow to the races. It seems to be a trend with City that that at the start of the season they seem to sort of slow. Then as the season progresses, towards the end of it, they just are relentless. Gary Neville predicted it perfectly. City just don't lose games when it comes to that final stretch. They're a different side. They're unreal. Arsenal have got a good shout with maybe an FA Cup, maybe a League Cup, but you could argue that West Ham have a similar shout. Obviously, if it came to a match between Arsenal and West Ham, I'd be pretty inclined to say that Arsenal 9 times out of 10 would probably beat us. But we've got just as much chance, really, of getting to a final and winning it than Arsenal do in some sense, or at least to a degree. Not as much of a gap between us and Arsenal than there is between us and City. Us and City is huge. There's a huge gap there. They literally just won the Champions League. If he goes to Arsenal, he's not winning the Champions League. I don't see them beating the likes of Bayern or Real Madrid or even City themselves. So you go to Arsenal, you're not guaranteed trophies. You go to City, you're guaranteed trophies. Guaranteed. I mean, at least one a season. You'd like to think they'll probably win the Premier League next season. They'll have a similar sort of degree of chance of winning the Champions League next season. And also, they tend to win the League Cup and the FA Cup. I know they lost out this year to United, but they tend to win it most years. You're guaranteed at least a trophy a season, I'd say, at City. Whereas in Arsenal, yes, it's more of a project. Yes, maybe you're more of a main man, but you're not guaranteed those trophies, which is ultimately the reason Dec wants to leave West Ham. He wants to leave West Ham for Champions League football, for a better project, to maybe be paid more money. I mean, obviously, it's rumoured that we offered him 200k a week to stay at West Ham. So, are Arsenal going to be offering him a wage of that sort? I mean, he's going to be one of the highest paid players at the club potentially, so I'd imagine so. But of course, whatever Arsenal put through, I think City would match it. The fact that we haven't seen any movement from City yet, is that because they've just won the Champions League? Is it because Pep's not as interested as maybe it seems? Or is it because they want to see that official bid from Arsenal so they can say, look, that's how much they're offering. We can offer you 10 more, 20 more, That's what I'm kind of thinking. So, this could go one of three ways. Either he goes to Arsenal for, I would consider, a lower fee than what City would pay. However, he'd be the main man at the club. He'd have this whole team built around him. I can imagine he might even be the captain at Arsenal with years to come, maybe even next year, who knows? Or option two, he can go to Manchester City, but he has to move away his family, move to a new town. Obviously, he doesn't really want to uproot his family that are all London boys, are all a London family. But he'll be paid potentially more money. We would get a better fee. And obviously, he gets more chance at trophies and to be shaped by arguably the best manager in the world, maybe even one of the best managers of all time in Pep Guardiola. Or there's option three, which is that despite the fact that Dec has supposedly agreed personal terms with Mikel Arteta already, we're not aware of him talking or being in contact with Manchester City, even though we're aware they've got an interest and we're aware of the kind of offer they would put to us. We don't have to accept anything. We could quite happily sit there and say, look, Arsenal are not paying enough money for you. We don't want you to go now. We'd rather you go to City. If he's not happy with that, there's no reason why we can't sit there and say, well, look, I think that the sentiment has always been, Dec has said, I will leave. And the club have said, look, we're happy to let you leave if the right offer comes through. And I don't think we'll be getting a Payet situation of if Dec can't get his move to Arsenal or can't get his move to City, he's going to refuse to play for us or he's going to drop his head. I don't think there's any part of him that's desperate to leave West Ham United. I think that it's agreed in all camps that this is now the time to sell him, which to be honest, I agree with. I think this is now the time to sell him, considering he has got 2 years left, but next year we'd be lucky to get 90 million. It's his last year at West Ham and he won't be agreeing a new contract. There's no way he'd agree a new contract. So if we don't sell him now and get the money of like 90 to 110 million, then we're going to be struggling in a year's time to get maybe 50, 60 million for him when people know he's going to go for free in the summer. And I've seen West Ham fans on social media and say, look, I'd rather Dec leave for free in the summer, keep him for another 2 years. I just think that's really bad business. If we're going to get a replacement for Declan Rice, we're going to have to spend some serious money. The only way we're getting that serious money is by selling Declan Rice. And unfortunately, that's how football works. And we've seen clubs like, Brighton and Leicester sell players in the past and actually, produce talents which are, fairly suitable replacements. There's no reason why we can't go out and get someone who will fill the void of Declan Rice, not replace him, not better him, or not even really get on his level, but just fill his void. You know, Dimitri Payet left the club, and I don't want to harp on about it, but he left the club, about like 6 or 8 years ago. And I still think we haven't really replaced a player with his caliber. You know, Dimitri Payet would still get into this West Ham side, no questions asked. I don't think you're getting ahead of, like, say, like Paqueta, but if we're talking about playing off like the left or the right, I'd much rather have Payet there than say the like. And you know, I love Jarrod Bowen. Jarrod Bowen's an absolute class player, and we'd still find a way to put him in the side. But Dimitri Payet walks into our West Ham side. We have not replaced him. You know, we've not got someone on his level. But in the meantime, we've gotten players like Jarrod Bowen. We've got players like, say, Ben Rama, who have filled the void. There's no reason we can't fill the void of Declan Rice. And to be honest, if he goes to City and we can get Calvin Phillips, that's a good sort of agreement with me. I know people on social media and, of course, on the channel have said that they're worried about his injury crisis, that he might not be good enough. But for me, you know, if we take Calvin Phillips and we get like 60, 70 million, hopefully be a bit more of a fee, and he ends up not working out for us or he's injury prone or whatever, then, you know, we can easily recoup like 30, 40 million. And we've still got players like Flynn Downs in there. We've still got the leftover Rice money that we can use. I just think keeping him for 2 years is just horrendously bad business. And I know it's about the football, and I know it's about the sentiment, and I know it's about having a local grown lads being at the club for 2 years. Don't get me wrong, I would love Declan Rice to stay at the club for 2 years, but it's horrible business. You know, when you think about it, it's just horrible business. You got this car that you really love and you really love driving, but in 2 years' time, it's going to be worth nothing. Surely you would take your supercar and you'd say, look, I absolutely love driving this car. It's the best car around. I've got such a connection with this car. I've had it since I was a youngster. I've had so many good memories in this car. But if I sell it now, I've got enough money to buy an okay car that's, you know, comparable to this lovely new car. That's the way I see it. You know, I don't think we should be blocking Declan Rice's move. I think he deserves to go. I think he's earned his right to go. I think if he left 2 or 3 years ago, you couldn't really argue with Declan Rice doing that. I think if he left this season in the summer or January, I don't think you could argue with that, especially considering that we're in a relegation battle for the majority of it and all the things that have been happening at the club. But he's stuck with us and he's got his trophy at West Ham, and he'll always have that, and we'll always have that with him as well. So now is the time for him to go. So I'm not going to be sitting here and saying that I want him to stay. I'm not going to be sitting here reporting that he might be staying or that, you know, anything like that. Right now, it's just about where is Declan Rice going to go and what is the best deal we can get. And from our understanding, of course, from ex-WH employee, look, how do I know all this stuff? How am I in the know? It's Patreon. You know, the West Ham way on Patreon. It's like £5 a month. There'll be links down below to join. You get the exclusive West Ham news. This is why I know all this stuff. This is why I can sit here and talk to you guys about it and know before anybody else. You know, X has the most accurate news, and it has been reported elsewhere by other major news outlets. But if I'm taking anything as gospel, it's the words of X. It's the words of WH employee, ex-WH employee. And what he has said on the Patreon site, to cut the gist of it, is that Dec wants to go to Arsenal. He's been convinced by their project. It is thought that City are going to put a bid in soon. It is also thought that Arsenal are going to submit their bid pretty much this week. But there is still a chance he could stay at West Ham. We're not going to be lowballed. We're not going to be bullied into selling Declan Rice. And actually, we wouldn't mind a bit of a bidding war to go. I can imagine even if Arsenal do submit their bid, we might hang on a bit. You know, this is still early stages of the transfer window as well. One thing we all got to remember is we've got a couple of months in the making. So I'm glad that this isn't going to harp on all summer and we're not going to be sitting here worrying about Declan Rice leaving, because if he was sold now, we know how much money we've got. We know who we need to replace. We can start to think about who could possibly come in for Declan Rice. But Declan Rice looks to be Arsenal bound. But, you know, there might be some more twists in this story. We might see him go somewhere else. He may even fulfill a lot of West Ham fans' dreams and stay on for another year. We don't know. But we will bring you the news as soon as we hear it. Where do you want him to go? How much do you think Declan Rice is worth? And I'll see you on the next one.